Hey guys, so here's that video regarding my post. I'd just like to start off by saying I have never met, been in contact with, or ever paid off by Ken Wheeler, the angry photographer. He had contacted me after I posted my video, after smearing it, and I blocked him immediately, and I read you as he follows. I'm Ken Wheeler. You should contact me about what Jason did. Several of the other women called me and told me what he did. I'm extremely serious. He's done this to a lot of women. I'll do anything to help you. He's a pervert. And as you can see, he is blocked. I just want to say that this was not provoked at all. The reason I can finally come forward now is because I'm no longer binded by an unlawful contract or even silenced by fear. I truly just want to reach other models. I'm not here to reach anyone's following. I'm not here to get anyone's money. I am truly here to let people know about how twisted this industry can be, how manipulative it can be, and how your vulnerability will be taken advantage of. Your vulnerability will be the death of you, especially in this industry. If you can't see the signs and if you can't weed out the creeps soon enough, it'll ruin you from modeling. I've stepped in a camera probably once since I've lost a lot of weight. I'm very self-conscious. And honestly, what sickens me is the fact that for so long I thought I couldn't say anything, when really I had a voice the whole time. I signed that non-disclosure agreement when I was 15 years old. My dad didn't see it, didn't sign it, didn't approve it. I was a minor. Once again, taken advantage of because of my vulnerability and not knowing the law, not knowing proper contracts and whatnot. And I was eager. I jumped to it. Read things, guys. Really read things. Make sure that it's concrete. Make sure that it's actually valid. And make sure you're not signing your life away when you sign something. Make sure you know what the job really entails. Because you could be told one thing and it could be a complete and different thing. Something you thought was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but was just a manipulative lie. It sickens me how stupid I was. The only thing I can do is help others not make the same mistake, because there's no going back. And I personally can't even make any claims because things happened off camera. Things were perceived differently when it was being watched. And me being goofy and jumping all over and being clingy and huggy, I was like that to all of my crew members. I I'm like that with all my friends and all the people I look to as family. That's just me. That's the person I am. I'm a goofball. And that's why, you know, everyone I met just liked me. Not to sound arrogant or anything, but I had fun with everybody. I never fought with any of my coworkers. I never fought with any of the attendees. I always stayed humble, and I still am to this day. Doing all of those things, that doesn't consent to anything. That doesn't say that, you know, a butt poking contest between the crew members can turn into you smacking my butt when I'm walking out of the elevator and saying, like, let's go, honey. It's uncomfortable. It's gross. Like my dad. I'd lean on my dad's shoulder. I would kiss my dad's cheek. I'd poke my dad's butt. My dad wouldn't slap my ass when I'm getting out of the elevator. It's just gross. The fact that people defend this type of behavior just truly shows me that this industry is just going nowhere anyway. Like, never in a million years would I have consented to someone smacking my butt in that type of manner. He was like a dad to me. I had so much trust, and you know what, that's why I apologized, and that's why I was the way I was. I always felt guilty. I am a true Canadian that way. I say sorry way too much, and I don't think of the big scenarios. I only think of other people and how they're feeling, and sometimes that majority of the time I put others first, and I almost always did that with my coworkers. There was a few times where the line was just too silver and I could not cross it. I couldn't cross it. Absolutely, models like to be complimented and knowing they're doing a good job while in front of the camera when you're behind it. It, one, breaks the silence. It, two, gives them a confidence booster. It empowers them. It just makes them perform a lot better while they're doing a photo shoot. And I don't think there's anything wrong with complimenting a model or empowering a model while you're shooting. There's a difference when you go out for dinner and you're looked up and down repetitively and you feel like you're about to be dinner. It's the best way I can explain it, is you just feel like you're a piece of meat. I did make comments. There was actually a time I said, hey, that's my butt. It's got my boyfriend's name on it. And instead of taking the actual hint, I got some shade thrown at me for even having a boyfriend. So the more I brought up the fact that I wasn't available and wasn't interested, the more it seemed as if, now that I look back on it, as if he retaliated. And that's seriously what it seemed like, was retaliation. Honestly, I stuck around because he made it seem like I wasn't going anywhere without him. That he was this mass amazing photographer and it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And don't get me wrong, that is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but at the same time, like, there are agencies that are traveling agencies. They will send you places and they will do things with you and crazy shoots and everything. And it's not just mediocre work, it's exotic, it's high fashion, it's all of it. And even then, you still have to be careful. You still don't know what you're going to get into. You still can be manipulated, and you can still be talked into dangerous situations. A perfect example of this would be the conversation between me and my former crew member. I'm not sure, quote unquote, what he said in Vegas, but he said something along the lines of, he doesn't care if I shoot with anyone else, but I'll never get as good as pictures as his. I blurred out the rest of the conversation because I don't think it has any relevance, and I don't think that any more of it proves anything. I think that strict sentence says just enough. Young, and I didn't get to travel much. I didn't get to see much or do much. I'm honestly country folk. The most I do is camping. And that should tell you right there that I am the least high maintenance person ever. I don't care about eating Red Lobster. I don't care about staying at 5-star hotels. As long as I'm somewhere safe, I'm fine. As long as I'm with someone I know I trust, I'm okay. I put myself in a lot of situations I shouldn't have. So, leading events to this, I guess I should say. I couldn't make it to Vegas. Customs wouldn't let me through. If I got they truly didn't even think I was a Canadian citizen. I had to prove that I had a place to stay. I was living somewhere in Canada, that I had an actual address. So I got all my paperwork together and everything and called the airlines. And unfortunately, I had to pay for another flight. So I knew it wasn't possible. I honestly tried everything I possibly could. I was extremely excited to work with my crew again and reunite with them, but it just didn't happen. I didn't have the proper paperwork. I didn't have the proper addresses, so customs just knew something was suspicious, and I swear they thought I was smuggling drugs. Not to make light of it, but seriously, like, it was actually one of the most intimidating situations I've ever been in. Like, I was completely interrogated, like in second confinement, baggage ripped open. It was a really scary experience, and I was by myself. So I go home, I start looking for models. I found models. I sent them to the other crew members. They worked out great. They actually used a few of the models that I had sent them, or sent their way. I truly did everything I could from home to help them. And I was never told I would have had to pay this airfare back. And then I was offered to go to England because it's UK, so the American border has nothing to do with it. I was astonished. I was complete in disbelief. I was also completely unaware it was just going to be the two of us until a few days prior, when the assistant at the time was giving me my information. And I was really confused as to why they weren't coming. It had always been a trip with either I had brought my friend, or another model came, or a female assistant. there was always someone else, always. So I didn't take any thought, I didn't take any second thought to it. I trusted him. I had no reason to second guess anything. So I went. The trip was already booked. Obviously, I went. And we arrive in England after however long of flying. We get to the hotel room, and it's just a bed. There was no pull-out couch. There was just a desk with a TV and a chair and bathroom. Standard hotel room, fine. I've stayed in motels. I'm literally fine with that. As long as I have my own bed, I'm okay. But that wasn't the case. I didn't have my own bed. So I didn't make a fuss about it. I didn't throw a temper tantrum. I showered, I unpacked, I went downstairs and got a cot myself. The other crew member had reached out to me on the other side of the world, knowing my concern already about this before we had even gone, as we had talked about the traveling position and how it turned from travel assistant to travel companion, and that's when I turned it down. She goes, they say, what's going on? Just keeps piling up. Number one thing, I'm very upset he didn't let me know we'd be in the same room and in the same bed. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not his travel companion. I shouldn't have been volunteered to stay in the same bed. He didn't even ask, so I got a cot, which he seemed very sour about. He went out for food and didn't even offer me anything. Mind you, I did tell you I wasn't very hungry, but that was 4 hours prior to him going out. My phone went off twice from one notification, but my alarm is messed up. And he was rude and was like, turn your ringer off. I told him I couldn't or else my alarm wouldn't go off, and he got mad and said, well then whoever's texting you, tell them to stop. I'm not going to bed yet, but I'm not waking up to that in the middle of the night. Meanwhile, and I'm not joking, this drove me nuts. Meanwhile, he keeps me up with that stupid buzzy fan thing and came into the room when I was trying to sleep and started being loud. Still has the TV loud AF, which is right beside my ear. Again, I blanked out the rest of the conversation because that alone can prove my point. You lied. So what else are you lying about? You did not provide me with a cot, and you expected me to stay in the same bed as you, and lied about it. I never lied. I am telling the truth. How dare you manipulate this and make it look like I'm the cruel one. I'm the one. You make yourself look to be the victim when you've made everyone else the victim this whole entire time. And then hide behind some unlawful friggin' contract. What is wrong with you? I don't even know what to say anymore. You're a liar. Like, you straight up lied to everybody. It made me look like a fool. You're the fool. How dare you make me look like this? After what you've done to me and everybody else? Seriously, shame on you. And shame on everyone that's backing you. This is absolutely terrible. This industry is terrible. It's manipulated. So twisted. It's ridiculous. Get your head out of the clouds, man. It ain't no friggin' rainbow up here. Like, the storm is coming. And I ain't sorry. You lied. And that's not my fault. You looked me dead in the eye and told me that if you touch me in my sleep, to push you over. And then you go on camera and say you would never even think of sleeping in the same bed as me. Disgusting. You're disgusting. Friggin' pitiful. And the worst part is you manipulated it to seem that like everyone I had worked with, that all of our crew members, everyone in the past, like this was okay with them. So I felt guilty. I literally apologized to you for it in England. I apologized for not sleeping in the same bed as you because you made me think it was okay. Because other women did it too. The people in England were great, and they made my trip. The English accents and everything is darling and beautiful and happy. Of course I'm going to tell everyone that it was great. I met some amazing people there. And that's an absolute fact. That's absolutely true. Doesn't mean that what happened didn't impact my trip. And that doesn't mean what happened is going to go all over Instagram for everyone to find out. Oh yeah, guys, my trip was terrible. I was almost forced to share the same bed as my boss. Yeah, let's smear that all over my Instagram. I'm okay. Thanks. So we get over England, and it's the East Coast Trio Swing. So there was 4 girls and the boss. And the 3 girls, that's including me, we're staying in an Airbnb. We knew this before we were going. We got the rundown of the trip before we were going, and we were actually excited to stay in an Airbnb. I stay in Airbnbs in Niagara Falls all the time and in Toronto. But you have to do your research. There's crappy hotels and there's crappy Airbnbs. That's just how it is. You got to do your research, and you got to make sure you're in the right area. I couldn't even tell you the crime rate statistics. And don't get me wrong, I knew going to Detroit and Chicago and all these places, they're dangerous. But I had trust that I wasn't going to be having to stay in one of those dangerous places, that I wouldn't have to be left in a crappy situation. So while him and his new assistant are staying on the strip in Detroit, where there's security and cops and everything everywhere, we're staying in the slums of Detroit, where the backyard fence is broken down and completely demolished, and it's a duplex house. These people have a key to my house. Not to mention, when we got there, it was like the house was, again, a duplex, but the people that rented it were also, like, they stayed there too. So when we got there, they were on the front porch, and it was like the couple and a kid or two, and then their parent. And she was like grabbing her purse and like shaking, getting to her car. Her legs were the size of my arm. Like, she was seriously, like, she was strung out. I've seen enough to know. And so we get to the Airbnb, and it was about 5 hours late. So we had to go shopping and whatnot, for outfits and food and whatever. Totally fine. as we were leaving, I snapped a little pic of where we were staying and what the neighbors' houses looked like, and I sent it to my boyfriend's mom. My dad doesn't text, so she was my only option. And not to mention that I trust her with everything, so I sent her the picture, I sent my boyfriend the picture, and I sent my grandfather the picture, and they were all quite uncomfortable with where I was staying, just because of the one picture I sent them. And that's when my boyfriend's mom had sent him to come and get me in her car, with her money. She just wanted me home and she wanted me safe. I can't thank her enough for that to this day. I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have tried to take a train home. I was that uncomfortable. We were at dinner actually, and he was on a power hungry strike, so I didn't want to deal with it, and I didn't want to be manipulated into staying again. So I told one of my crew members to let him know I was leaving, and he retaliated with nasty text messages saying that I had an obligation to fulfill, and which I totally understand. But I would have fulfilled the obligation had the accommodations been safer. I did apologize after leaving, mainly because I'm the type of person where my guilt just eats me. I don't think about the circumstances. I don't think about myself. I truly think about other people. And I was then finally reunited with my favorite part of the team, and it was honestly a really, really hard decision for me to leave. But I did. And when I told my boyfriend to come and get me, he replied with he was already on his way. So when I told them at dinner and he had picked me up a few hours later, he was already 3-4 hours throughout the drive. I'd messaged him right when we got there. There was no turning back. And I'm glad he left when he did. I'm glad I didn't have to stay there until 5 a.m. I'm glad I didn't have to stay there throughout the whole time. I was so uncomfortable. I literally wouldn't have been able to sleep. I'm, again, country folk. Like, I hear a siren and it's like, whoa. I knew what I was getting into and I knew where I was going, but never in a million years would I have thought it would have been a place like that. In an area like that. So I left. And I apologized for it. But there was some nasty messages to follow. Because I did agree to pay him back. And the most messed up part about it all is I wasn't even given a receipt. I wasn't given anything. I was just given a ballpark number of $500. You gotta pay me back $500 for all this airfare from Las Vegas and from Detroit. And I felt guilty. He manipulated me again after I'd already left. And I was willing to pay him back until I got harassed about it. Exchange rates weren't talked about. And if you guys don't know, Canadian to American, that's pretty big. That's an extra few $100s. So And for someone that works really hard for their money and is paying for school tuition and paying for a car, like, that extra $100 goes a very long way. So I asked if I could pay in increments, and it was just back and forth arguing, and eventually I got fed up with it and said, take me to court. Blocked everyone on everything, and fell off the face of the earth. Step back from modeling. Learned a lot of life lessons along the way. And I finally found the person that I'm supposed to be. So I have no resentment. I am a forgiver. And for me to move on with my life, I needed to come forward with my story and my truth. So here it is. And if you don't like it, then get the fuck out of my face.